You are standing ankle-deep in frozen mud in an English market town. It is Shrove Tuesday, sometime in the 1400s. The February air bites at your bare knuckles. The church bells stop. Then you hear it. A low roar, hundreds of voices rolling toward you like a wave. A leather ball, stuffed tight with an inflated pig's bladder, arcs into the gray sky. And the entire town explodes into motion. Men pour out of every alley. Butchers, farmers, blacksmiths. 500 bodies collapsing into one heaving mass of muscle. An elbow catches your jaw. You taste blood and cold iron. There are no lines painted on the ground. No referee. No teams you can count. The only rule anyone ever agreed on was this: try not to commit murder. And that churning wall of bodies is coming straight for you. Today, football is order. 90 minutes, 22 players, 1 ball. A referee with a whistle, ready to stop everything if a single tackle lands too hard. In 2022, roughly 1.5 billion people watched the World Cup final, one of the most watched events in the history of the human species. But the game those billions worship was born from something closer to a riot. This medieval version had no clock. Matches ran for hours, sometimes across 2 full days. It had no pitch. The field was the entire town. Streets, rivers, graveyards, stretching up to 3 miles from end to end. And it had no limit on players. One parish against another meant several hundred bodies crushed into a single scrum. There was effectively one rule: do not kill anyone. People died anyway. In 1321, in Oldham, Northumberland, a player was stabbed clean through the body by an opponent's dagger. In 1581, a Middlesex man named Roger Ludford took 2 elbows to the chest. By one count of the surviving coroner's rolls, at least 91 people died in English football incidents between 1314 and 1442. The authorities noticed. The very first ban came in 1314, when the Lord Mayor of London outlawed the game over the sheer chaos it caused. In 1349, King Edward III banned it too. He wanted his men practicing archery for war, not shattering each other. For the next 300 years, kings and councils outlawed football again and again and again. A Tudor scholar dismissed it as beastly fury. A Puritan writer branded it a bloody murdering practice. By every logic, a lethal, lawless game, banned by monarch after monarch, should have been stamped out of existence. It wasn't. It became the most popular sport on Earth. The question is how. The chaos didn't vanish. It got tamed, piece by piece, weaponized into structure. Here is exactly how a killing game became a global one. For centuries, the game lived only in memory. Every town played by its own unwritten custom, passed mouth to mouth. Put 2 towns together, and you got confusion. Then, violence. The chaos peaked when boys from different schools reached university. A student from Charterhouse and a student from Rugby, standing on the same field, agreed on almost nothing. So in 1848, a group of students at Cambridge University met on a field called Parker's Peace and hammered out the first widely shared set of written rules, the Cambridge Rules. For the first time in history, football existed on paper, not as memory, as law. The medieval game used the whole town as its pitch. That is precisely what made it lethal. Bodies smashing through streets, shop fronts, and rivers with nothing to contain them. Then England changed. As cities swelled in the 1800s, A packed urban world could no longer absorb a game that trampled everything in its path. New police forces moved in. The counterstrike came from Parliament. The Highway Act of 1835 specifically banned playing football on public roads.
Town by town, the mob was shoved off the streets. Richmond in 1840, Kingston in 1867. In Richmond, 50 constables were sent in to break up a single match. The game was forced onto bounded fields, and the several hundred-man riot shrank into 11 players on a marked rectangle.
Even with rules on paper, the game kept its savage heart. Its core feature was hacking, deliberately kicking an opponent in the shins, plus tripping and holding, legalized violence. The gentlemen's clubs of the mid-1800s realized the obvious. A game that maimed its own players every week could never grow. So in October 1863, 13 London clubs met at the Freemasons' Tavern and drafted football's first 13 laws. It was engineered by Ebenezer Cobb Morley, a solicitor who had written to a newspaper demanding the sport get a governing body. Among those new laws, hacking and tripping were banned outright. Handling the ball in open play was banned. For the first time, the game had its teeth pulled, on purpose. Not everyone wanted a gentler game. A stubborn faction insisted on keeping hacking and on running with the ball tucked in their hands. Two visions, one rule book. It couldn't hold. At the final meeting, the Blackheath Club, represented by F.M. Campbell, walked out rather than surrender shin-kicking and ball carrying. That single walkout split football in two. The clubs that stayed became association football, the game the world would call soccer. The clubs that left went on to form the Rugby Football Union in 1871, and rugby's handling game crossed the Atlantic. A Princeton-Rutgers match in 1869 mutated, within a decade, into a brand new sport, American football. One deadly medieval game. Two, then three of the biggest sports on the entire planet. It was about belonging. One parish against the next. A tribe you were born into and defended for the rest of your life. That inheritance never died. It just went quiet. In the Derbyshire town of Ashbourne, they still play the ancient game every Shrove Tuesday, exactly as their ancestors did. The goals sit 3 miles apart on the banks of a brook called the Henmore. Hundreds of players crash together in a slow, grinding scrum they call the hug. And which side you fight for is not a choice you make. If you were born north of that brook, you are an uppard. Born south, a downard. For life. The Kings never managed to kill it. When authorities tried to ban the Ashbourne game in the 1800s, a woman named Elizabeth Woolley smuggled the ball to the waiting players under her skirts. During the First World War, soldiers from the town played it in the fields of France, thousands of miles from home, because letting the game die felt like losing a piece of themselves. That fierce, stubborn belonging is the thing the entire world inherited. When 1.5 billion people paint their faces and scream at a screen for 90 minutes, they are feeling the exact same pull those medieval villagers felt in the frozen mud. The pull of your people, your colors, your side. Your ancestors bled in the streets over a stitched leather ball. They were beaten, fined, and outlawed by kings for 300 years. And they refused to stop, passing the game down birth by birth, generation by generation, until the whole planet was playing it. And they refused to stop, passing the game down birth by birth, generation by generation, until the whole planet was playing it. They just refused to let go of who they were. And over time, that was enough.